Meeting on the sidelines of the G7 Hiroshima summit, the leaders of South Korea, the U.S. and Japan agreed to upgrade their strategic cooperation. There, President Joe Biden also asked Yoon and Kishida to come to D.C. for another round of trilateral talks. For more, let's turn to Professor An Junseong. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
So first off, no joint statement was issued from the three sides at this time. In fact, the meeting itself was reportedly quite short, right? And now, what's your take on the talk this time? Any significance of the trilateral meetup?
Yeah, well, I think that it was too short to be, called as a trilateral meeting because it took less than 2 minutes. So I guess it's more like, exchanging ideas, right? Basically talks, hello, say hello. And then there's a difference between the Japanese and Korean media on how to describe the event. And Japanese media describe as a, brief exchange of opinion with photograph, whereas the Korean media describe it as the joint trilateral meeting. So it was very brief, and then I think that the main talks, basically what they're saying was that Joe Biden invited two leaders to the, another round of trilateral meeting in D.C. Well, not D.C. in U.S., right?
Right, short, but they did make sure to make some time to reaffirm their commitment on mainly security issues. Now, talking of security, the three leaders agreed to upgrade their cooperation to a new level in areas including sharing real-time North Korea missile information. Now, Professor, to what extent do you think they came to agree on beefing up their cooperation in that field?
Well, that's a very interesting question because actually I reviewed the entire text of the prompt, the trilateral meeting, and then there was three issues about here, three areas of cooperation, right? First was DPRK, the North Korea, and then Ukraine, and obviously it's Taiwan. And in respect of the DPRK issue, the joint statement mentioned two things: a joint military exercise, and then the missile data sharing, information data sharing with the other three nations. But however, my concern is that there's a different perspective. Public view on the sentiment, I guess, is on the two issues. About first one about the military, the military data exchange, maybe socially acceptable in Korea. But the second one about joint exercise, military exercise, if the Japanese, the military military exercise, that's be a big issue in Korea. I think that's things we have to see. And then I'm not sure about how how U.S. government approaching it about upgrade relations in terms of joint cooperation on security issue.
Right. And going back to what you briefly mentioned earlier, President Biden reportedly said he's invited Yoon and Kishida to D.C. for another trilateral sit-down. Now, Professor An, what's the significance behind the invitation this time then?
Well, I guess that, I just, because I reviewed that entire text of the prompt joint statement, and actually it's not really the DPRK specific. It's more like just, kind of reflecting how the U.S. government looking at the current global issues, right, including Ukraine, right, and Taiwan, which is not really directly related to the Korean national interest, right. So it's more like the thing. I think that three countries have a different perspective on the same issue. Although they had a joint statement last November and prompt Cambodia, but they have different view on perspective on the issue. So we'll have to see what kind of the card that Joe Biden will play, show up next time in the D.C.
Right, maybe another round of trilateral talks in D.C. next time where they can spend more than 2 minutes or 5 minutes to talk or delve deeper into those security talks. Now, in the meantime, Professor An, then what can we look forward to or expect from the three sides from now on? I mean, we can talk about the security cooperation or in any other fields. What do you think?
I think my personal take is the U.S. concern was that it's not about how three countries cooperate in terms of the pending issue like the North Korean nuclear threat, but it's more like the concern is that the bilateral relations between Korea and Japan. And so I guess that reportedly Joe Biden made a comment saying that both leaders Yoon and Kishida had a courageous, act something, right? So we'll have to see. Perhaps from the U.S. government perspective, that's a courageous movement, but from the the domestic perspective in both countries like Japan and Korea, we'll have to see how the public receive it and perceive it as what's happening and understanding what's going on. That's a different issue, and they have a different political position on the the trilateral progress.
Right, rather short and brief, but indeed a dense meeting where they did reaffirm their commitment, a security commitment.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's very important. I think there's a three-party agree on the bottom line is that they agree on the threat of the North Korean nuclear and missile, the threat, right? That's the one thing for sure. But however,
Right.
how they implemented the trilateral, progress, that's the different issue.
Right. All right, Professor An Junseong, thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.